everybody and welcome to Luminate Home. My name's Alex McEwan and today I'll be delivering a fun and really simple workshop for you from here, my conservatory on the west coast of Scotland. I ordinarily would be working with groups in the community in a variety of settings all across Scotland and the UK. I normally would be working with young people, older makers and on intergenerational projects, which is always very, very exciting. So I'm really pleased to be able to bring this to you through film when we're all stuck indoors. Albatross Arts is my company, and it's a social enterprise which really believes in using creativity to boost people's confidence and make them feel more connected. So let's get on with doing something and getting engaged. Okay everyone, I've got just some ideas about how you might want to use this film. It's a video obviously, so if you want to use it, every which way works best for you. If you want to watch the film all the way through, it's about 25 minutes, then you watch it all the way through and think about what resources you might like to gather from around your home. If you would like to watch the workshop and also make at the same time, please feel free to pause me at any time and then go away and get the materials or make yourself a cup of tea, answer the phone, and come back, unpause me, and we can just continue with the workshop. Okay, so just some ideas to help you with the workshop before we get started. Ordinarily, I would, in my workshops, I'd make sure the area was nice and clear. No trip hazards, everybody's comfortable, make sure that you've got everything you need to hand. There is pretty low risk, really. There's nothing really to worry about here. The messiest part will be your fingers. They might get a bit gluey, but apart from that, it's pretty straightforward. I would suggest you protect your work surface. So here on my table I've put some white paper. If you have some newspaper to hand or some old magazines, maybe pop them down so we don't get glue on your worktop. The only other vaguely worrying item, which is not really very worrying, are your scissors. Just be careful with those. I know you will be. And maybe if you're wearing your best outfit, you might want to cover yourself up with an apron. As you can see, I don't use my apron very much because it's absolutely brand new, not got a spot on it. So basically that's it. Just make yourself comfortable and make sure you have a nice clear space. I always like to have a little bit of music on in the background. It might be nice to have the radio or some tunes on. If you want to have your cup of tea, just make sure you don't knock it over when you're reaching for things and spill hot liquid on yourself. Okay, so let's start. Let's make a start. Let's get making. I'm going to put my cup of tea to the side now. So today's workshop is called Jars of Inspiration. Now, the idea is based on an activity I do quite a lot, and they are normally memory jars, but I think everybody needs something to look forward to at this time. So what I've thought about is making these jars where we can deposit things that we are really looking forward to doing when we are allowed to go back outside, and things which we've thought about where we think, oh, do you know what, I think I'm going to give that a go when I can get to the shops, when I can go and get different ideas. So the idea is really simple. Okay, I've got 3 jars, jam jars, all sorts of sauce jars, and I'm going to show you how to decorate them in 3 different ways. So this one is collaged. This is just nice paper. Some things I've drawn, some things I've cut out in magazines. This one is covered in fabric. As you can see, I've used things from around the house. Everything in this workshop, I'll just reiterate, everything you can find around your own home, okay? And I'm going to give you lots of different varieties of that. So this one's covered in fabric. I've got some wool, I've got some twine. And this one is covered in things from my kitchen cupboard. I scrambled right to the back of the cupboard and I found all sorts of things which I barely ever use. But it's interesting what you notice at this time. So this one's covered in food stuff, okay? So it's nice and textural. This one's nice and textural. This one's a bit smoother, but you can get a lot of different visuals very, very simply. You might notice there are some sticks sticking out of here, okay? So the idea is once you've made your beautiful vessel out of your very boring jam jar, you can attach to that stick. These are just sticks which I got on my daily walk. I'm very lucky, I'm near the sea, but if you don't have sticks from your walk, or if you don't have a garden, there's loads of things you can use from around the house. You might have chopsticks, you might have a wooden spoon, you might just have a metal spoon or a fork, and you can attach a little idea. So on the end of this, I've attached with a rubber band an idea of something I would like to do when we are finished this situation and we can go out, okay? If you don't want to use sticks, that's absolutely fine. Let's get rid of them. You can just very simply write them down, pop them in the jar, okay? And it's a way of keeping them there and reminding yourself that, you know, what you want to have a go at. Okay, so these are the basic materials. I'm going to talk you through the basic materials that you're going to need for all three different methods, okay? So first of all, you're going to need some jars, okay? This is a marmalade jar. It's quite nice because it's got lots of different edges to it. It's the wee jam pot, again, nice, it's got a texture to it. I don't even remember what was in this one. It's a jar. And all of them start like this. They've got their label on. Other brands of mayonnaise are available. What you want to do is you want to pop them in a bucket of water or the sink. I do this overnight because it's just easier. And once you've done that, anyone who's ever collected stamps and floated the stamps off the envelopes will know, you take your jam jar in the morning, all the glue on the back of the labels let go of itself and you can easily remove it. And hey presto, you've got a fantastic thing. Make sure your jam jar's nice and clean because you don't want any leftover sauces or jams in there. Also make sure there's no cracks because we don't want anybody hurting themselves. Okay, so here are some with lids and here are some without, just because they've got lost. So if you don't have a jar, or if you think a jar might be too heavy, or you're worried about it breaking, you don't have to use a jar. You could use a yoghurt pot. This is a large yoghurt pot. You get them the same size as a large cream tub or a large custard pot. Give your pot a really good wash in hot soapy water, and then this one's got a cardboard covering. Just take it off, no need to soak it like the jars, and we can do exactly the same things with the yoghurt pot. I'll show you how to use the yoghurt pot when we get to method 3, the collage. You're going to need some glue. Now, I'm going to give you some options here. Let's move the jam jars out the way. This is just boring, bog standard craft glue. It's also known as white glue, and some of you might know it as PVA. It's craft glue. It's stuff that the kids use, and it's white and gloopy. You can get it in most supermarkets. If you don't have craft glue or white glue, you can use glue stick, okay? Glue stick, you're going to go through quite a lot of it, so if you are using a glue stick, make sure you have a couple. You're going to need some scissors, whatever size suits you, big, small. and you're going to need something to apply your glue to your jar. So, as I promised, there are lots of different things you can use in case you just don't have a bog standard paintbrush. You can use a bog standard paintbrush, use quite a big one. If you don't have a bog standard paintbrush, you can use an old toothbrush, okay? Remember not to reuse it, that'll be disgusting. You've got little craft sponges, you can use those. If you don't have a craft sponge, you can use a bog standard sponge from the kitchen drawer and chop it up, and hey ho, you've got a small sponge to apply the glue. So those are your basic materials you're going to need for all three methods. Jam jars which are clean, some with lids, some without, it doesn't matter. Glue, glue sticks or glue pots, and some scissors and some items to apply the glue to the outside of your jar. This might be a good time to pause and go and get those things. Right, let's start with the really textured one from all the foodstuffs in the kitchen cupboard. Okay, this is where I feel a little bit more Delia Smith than artist. So it's not a cooking program, but I have with me here, I have an assortment of things from my store cupboard. So I've got some rice, I've got some really colourful red lentils, this is some popping corn. Also in the tray, I've got some split peas, some couscous and some mung beans, which I have never used before. So what you need is you need some dried, and keep it dried, food materials. You need a sort of tray. I'm just using the top of a Tupperware pot here. You'll need your glue, you'll need your thing for applying the glue, whatever you're going with, and a small jar. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our jar. Now there's two ways you can do this. You can either put your fingers in the jar to keep it steady. If that's not going to work for you, just place the jar upside down on the worktop. So I'm going to use a paintbrush. Remember, you could use the sponge if you wanted to. And I'm going to start getting a bit sticky here. Right, okay, let's go. So and you have to be quite generous here. Get your jar, and either you paint it, you cover the whole thing in glue. Okay, and you can be quite generous with it. It's nice and sticky, so it's going to go all over your fingers. That's why if you're doing it this way, try and keep your fingers on the top. That way you won't get too sticky. Just to demonstrate, if you're using the method where you put your fingers in the jar, put your fingers in the jar, and then just make sure you're quite generous with it. If you're going to be putting the lid back on, keep that bit clear. So I'm going to cover the whole thing in glue. Not going to be stingy with it. Quite. Now, the wonderful thing about white glue, craft glue, PVA, is that it dries clear. So when it dries, it's going to dry like varnish. You won't be able to see it, okay? So pop this to the side. I'm going to take your jar with a finger on the clean rim and a finger on the clean bottom, and get your dried food stuff and make sure it's nice and clean. And you're going to roll it. You're going to roll your jar slowly, pressing down to make sure you can cover as much as you can. Oh. Now certain items will stick better than others. The couscous is sticking well because it's small. And if it's not, as you can see, some will stick really easily. Some others might need a bit of encouragement. So what you can do is you can pick up your thing and sprinkle it straight onto the surface. And it takes on a lovely textured appearance, like hundreds and thousands on top of a cake. take your time. Now, I'm quite happy that this is a random design. Now, if you're not happy about a random design and you would rather do something which is a little bit more where you had more control, you can make sure that you're layering it up. So I just went to the edge of the shoulder of the jar there, and then afterwards I applied the green beans on the top so that I got orange with green. Very much depends what you're using. Again, patience is a virtue here. If you wanted to be super precise, you could get your tweezers out and try and apply, but I don't have the patience for that, so I'm just going to pat them all. So when you've got your jar and you think it's pretty much well covered, leave it to dry. Pop it to the side and leave it to dry. So moving on to method 2, okay? So this one, we're going to take our jam jar and we're going to cover it in fabric. Now the easiest way I've found to do this is to use string and wool. So let's pop this one to the side. So around the house I've managed to find some wool. I'm not a knitter. If you were a knitter, you can use some knitted, you could knit yourself one. Knit your jar, and I've got some more wool, I got some ribbon, this is actually cardboard twine, gift twine, and I found some sparkly stuff which actually came off a present. I think it was gift wrap. I've also got a shoelace, they're quite good, an old shoelace, and some assorted buttons from the button box. I'm going to take the lid off for this one. Again, using your favourite preferred method, you can either turn it upside down and glue it, or just put your hands in. I'm going to put my hands in this time. And just to show you that it's also a really good way of doing it, I'm going to use the toothbrush this time to cover my jar in glue. Remember, don't be stingy. I'm going to get lots of glue on here, okay? Now, what's happened is that between making the textured food jar and this jar, the glue's lid's been off and it's got a little bit thicker and a little bit gooier. So actually this works very well. So just keep turning it round, a bit fiddly, turning it round, covering it with your toothbrush covered in glue, or your brush or your sponge, all the way round till it's all covered. Brilliant. Nice and covered, okay? Pop it down. So we're going to start off with a old, I think this came from my walking boot, an old shoelace. So put your shoelace along the edge of the thing, and all you're going to do is slowly, carefully wind this round the jar, making sure there's not too much of a gap. And the glue is quite sticky now, so it's going to hold it in place for you until you get to the end. So it's like a coiled snake. There might be some gaps, just use your fingers to squish it down. Remembering, if you get glue on your ribbon or your fabric, it doesn't matter because it's going to dry clear, isn't it? So there's the base, that's our first run of our... So I'm going to choose something else now. I think that shoelace is a bit dull, let's go a bit glam here. I'm going to glam it up with this sparkly ribbon. Again, very simple, just slowly and surely wind that round. Doesn't matter if it overlaps a bit. And you're going to get this nice layered up effect. Okay, I think that's enough gold, so I'm going to chop it here. Again, if there's gaps, you can squish it down. Just move it down, it will slide very, very easily. I'm going to finish off a nice bit of red wool. Again, very gently, winding it round. And when you're finished, you're going to pop it to the side to let it dry. And it will dry, when you can't see the white of the glue, then it's dry. This could take a while, so just leave it to dry, don't be impatient with it. You could always be making one of the other designs. Well, one of them is really, so. Winding it round, getting quite gluey here. Until it's finished. Oops. When you get to the end, that will just tie off like that. And as you get the idea, you can keep going around until you have something finished like this. If you want to decorate your lid, take a nice big blob of glue, pop it on the top. And here I'm going to stay with the fabric theme, but I'm just going to make it something different. So I'm going to pop some buttons on the top here. Nice random design. Lots of cheery buttons. Remembering, when this dries, you will not see the white bit. So it doesn't matter if it looks a little bit messy now, you're not going to see it in the end. And there you go. That'll dry, clear, and then you'll have a nice finished jar. Right, everybody, we're going to have a look at method number 3. And method number 3 for decorating our vessel is collage. And collage is extremely simple. Okay, so here are a couple of examples I've already done, which is very Blue Peter. This one's done on a jar, and it's using our craft glue like we have been for our other jars. But in case you're not so good with glass, or if you don't have a jar, or if you find it a little bit heavy, let's have a look at making one with a yoghurt pot. So this is a yoghurt pot. It's quite a big yoghurt pot. It's about the same size as a cream pot or a custard pot. And perhaps if like me, you're not having your recycling collected at the moment because of the current situation, you could have a couple of these. Yeah. So give it a good clean. Keep the lid. Give it a good clean. And I'll show you how to make that. So here is my very boring yoghurt pot. It came with a label, which was cardboard, so I just peeled that off. No need to soak it like with the jars. You just peel it off. And it was all white and boring. So what I did is, instead of using the craft glue, you can use the craft glue, but if you would like to use a glue stick, this works just as well. Probably better than on plastic. So I give it a good coating all the way around, and to save time this time, I've got already started. So I give it a good thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to build our collage. So for our collage materials, I've got some scrap coloured paper, which I just had. You can cut things out of magazines. I've got some things which I've actually drawn. So here are some leaf designs which I've drawn and I've cut out. I've got a colourful napkin. I've got some cool packaging which came from a bag. I've got some gift wrap, which has always got a nice colourful design on it. And what I think works quite well is to not just have the images, but also to have some text. So I've cut out some text from magazines and newspapers and some amusing headlines I thought would cheer me up. Okay, so we're going to get rid of the white by using our scrap paper. So what works quite well here as well is that if you're not very good with scissors, it's almost more effective to just rip it. So I'm going to put that around the bottom, like that. Now, you've already put a layer of glue down, but you might need to just adds a little bit extra glue to the end, so smooth it down. So you've got a nice smooth surface. Okay, so I'm pretty happy. You just keep going round, building up. I'm pretty happy that that's nearly covered. So I think I'll start building my design. I'm going to go for some leaves. I think give them a good gluing all over the back. And then just plop them down. Yep. Smooth them down. Again, you might need to just get the ends, give them an extra bit of glue. Smooth that down. I think I shall go for some sheet music because I'm really missing live music. So get your sheet music, put some glue on the back of your strip. Good job I've got my table protected there. And then I'm going to just pop that right in. Now it will go over your leaf design, my leaf design here. I'm not worried about that. And then I think I'm going to find something in my things I've cut out the newspaper, and oh, this is a good one. I found an amusing headline. It says "Parrot robs Scotsman." That cheered me up no end. So I shall just. I feel sorry for the man, but it's just still quite amusing. Right, there we go. There's my parrot and the Scotsman quote. Here's my sheet music, and here are my leaves. Stick another leaf on there. I've also got this little bit of text. It says Vincent van Gogh, which is a charade from Christmas Cracker, which I found kicking about. Pop that on. And round you go until you're completely happy with your design. And then you have to think about the lid. Maybe on the lid you would like to put something. Oops. Again, I think I'm going to go for a leaf. I am partial to a leaf. So there you have it. And if you find any bits which are just not sticking, give them an extra dab and put them down. At this point, you can leave it as it is, or you could take your craft glue and cover the whole thing in craft glue, remembering that this is going to dry clear. So what this is doing is effectively becoming a varnish, making it waterproof. You don't have to do this bit, it's just an extra bit. And in the end, you'll end up with some lovely designs. This one hasn't been varnished, and this one has. Okay, now for the sticks of inspiration. So hopefully when you've been making your jars, it's been provoking some thoughts of things you want to try going forward. So we've got sticks, as I said. You can get sticks from the garden, from your walks, your daily walk, if you're able to do that. If you're not able to do that, use things from around the house. I've got a wooden spoon, some chopsticks, some straws, whatever's to hand. If you don't have anything to hand, remember, we're just going to make a note, roll it up, pop it in the jar. Okay. So here I've got things. So I've had some inspiration. I'm going to try that marbling workshop, which was on the Luminate Home. I am really, really looking forward to going swimming again. I miss swimming a lot. So write what you're thinking you're going to have a go at, or if you're the thing you're missing and you can't wait to get back to, or the thing that you've got inspired by. Wrap it, fold it up on any scrap of paper, wrap it around your stick, and you can attach it with a rubber band. If you don't have a rubber band, don't despair. You can use a hairband if you've got long hair. You can use a little bit of wool, pipe cleaner, or those weird twisty things you get with freezer bags, which I never seem to use and have a lot of at the bottom of my drawer. There's things with wire in them. Once you've got some ideas, as the days go by, just pop them in your jar. Oh, I've had an idea. I'll pop it in my jar. There's that one we made earlier. It's nearly dry. Pop it in my jar. I think the more you have, the nicer you can. You can separate them as to things you're going to try or things you're going to go back to. And keep them somewhere cheery on your windowsill. Okay? It's been a real pleasure delivering this workshop for you. So stay safe and keep creating.